Have you ever noticed how quickly the world turns against you the moment they sense you might be smarter than them? It's subtle at first, a shift in tone, a glance that lingers too long, an offhand remark that lands heavier than it should. You thought they'd admire your clarity, your insight. Instead, it's as if you've painted a target on your own back. The Stoics understood this long before our age of instant opinions. They knew that truth and intelligence are not always met with applause, but often with quiet resistance. The more you show, the more some will plot to diminish you, not because you've done them harm, but because your presence unsettles the stories they tell themselves. So the wise man learns patience. He doesn't hide his mind out of fear, but out of strategy. He lets others underestimate him, misread him, even dismiss him, because in their comfort, they reveal themselves. And when the moment truly matters, he speaks, and the room changes. This isn't weakness. It's discipline, the art of knowing that the sharpest blade stays sheathed until the strike counts. If you've ever felt the weight of being misunderstood or the urge to guard your own brilliance, stay with me. What follows may change the way you think about when and how you reveal your true strength. 1. Hide your mind, keep your power. Have you ever felt that restless pull inside, the need to correct someone, to show them you know more than they think? It starts small, a sentence forming on your tongue, your mind racing ahead to prove you are sharp, capable, not to be underestimated. Most people cannot stand the weight of being seen as ordinary. To them, it feels like an insult, a shadow cast over their worth. And so they rush to push the shadow back. They blurt out their knowledge, list their accomplishments, flex their mental muscle. They think they've won the moment. But as Marcus Aurelius wrote, the more we value the opinion of others, the less we control our own minds. In proving themselves, they have surrendered their advantage. I once watched a man in a crowded hall interrupt a conversation just to correct a minor detail in someone's story. He smiled, proud of his precision, but in that moment he showed everyone in the room exactly where his pride lived. The people he wanted to impress didn't respect him more, they simply understood him better. They now knew what bait he would always take. From then on, every challenge to his knowledge was like pulling a thread from his composure. Without realizing it, he had become predictable. His opponents could now lead him anywhere, so long as they dangled the lure of being right. The Stoics would see this as the cost of an undisciplined tongue. To them, the wise man does not leap at every chance to display his cleverness because he understands that knowledge revealed too soon is knowledge weakened. Seneca warned that what is well hidden is well defended. The moment you rush to prove yourself, you have shown not only your skill, but also your hunger for recognition. And hunger is something others can feed or starve at will. The strategist plays a different game. He lets the room believe what it wants. Let them think he is distracted, naive, even slow to catch on. He wears the plain robe instead of the armor, because armor invites attack. While others spend their energy establishing their place in the hierarchy, he spends his energy watching, listening, learning. He gathers the pieces of the puzzle while they are too busy enjoying their own reflection. Every careless boast, every unguarded comment, every overconfident assumption, he tucks them away like coins in a chest, knowing they will be worth far more when the time is right. There is a quiet strength in being underestimated. Epictetus would call it the freedom of not being watched too closely. In the silence of low expectations, you can move without interference. You can stand closer to the truth without being pushed away. You can see the cracks in another's foundation without them realizing you are looking. A man who is thought harmless can walk through guarded doors. A man who is thought average can hear secrets meant for lesser ears. And a man who is thought foolish can learn more in one evening than the proud can in a year. I once heard of a merchant in the port city of Rhodes who never spoke at the market stalls. Buyers assumed he was a simple man, content to let others set the price. They laughed at how easily they could outdeal him. What they did not see was that he was studying the rhythm of their greed, who haggled hardest, who bluffed most, who could not walk away from a bargain. By the time the great shipment came in from Alexandria, he knew exactly which buyers would overcommit and which would sell him more cheaply than they should. In a single morning, he bought half the shipment at a fraction of its value, while his competitors were still arguing over coin. They thought they had beaten a fool until they realized he had left the market richer than any of them. This is the art born not from ignorance, but from restraint. It is the discipline to hold your sword while others are swinging theirs wildly. The discipline to accept being seen as small so you can grow in the shadows. And the discipline to let others reveal themselves completely before you reveal anything at all. So the next time someone underestimates you, resist the urge to correct them. Let the moment stretch. Let them settle into their illusion. In their comfort, they will speak too freely, act too boldly, and show you the very levers you can one day pull. Remember, your mind is not a banner to wave. It is a blade to keep hidden until the strike cannot be stopped. And when you learn to hold that blade steady in its sheath, you will find a kind of power that noise can never buy. A power rooted in patience, sharpened by observation, and guided by the quiet knowledge that every move you do not make is shaping the moment you will. Which brings us to the next lesson: why the pause between what you know and what you say is often where your greatest strength is born. 2. Appear weak to grow strong. Have you ever watched someone walk into a room and seem to shrink in presence, only to leave hours later with every decision tilted in their favor? They didn't push, they didn't argue, they didn't even look like they were trying. And yet, the outcome belonged to them. Sun Tzu once advised, "Appear weak when you are strong, but the truly dangerous take this further. They let others believe they hold the reins, then quietly loosen the knots until the horse is theirs." It's a discipline of patience and control, one the Stoics would recognize well. Seneca wrote that the wise man is neither elated by prosperity nor cast down by adversity, and it is that calm center that makes the mask of weakness so convincing. When people believe they are the most capable person in the room, they begin to relax. They start talking more than they should. They share their victories, their grievances, and without realizing it, the cracks in their armor. I once heard of a counselor in a merchant city who, in tense negotiations, played the role of the quiet, uncertain delegate. He asked questions so basic that the other party chuckled, but every answer they gave to his foolish queries revealed numbers, timelines, and motives they thought were hidden. When the final day of talks came, his single counteroffer stripped away their advantage in one move. They were stunned, and by the time they recovered, the deal was sealed. This approach works because it starves the other person's caution. When they stop seeing you as a threat, they stop protecting themselves. The Stoic understands that to gain true advantage, you do not need to push every moment. You need to be present, still, and unreadable. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. In the same way, a strategist lets the noise wash over him, unmoved and unshaken, until the tide turns in his favor. Look closely and you'll see this in many arenas. The executive who sits through the meeting saying little, letting others speak until they reveal too much, then closes the discussion with one precise sentence that settles everything. The quiet friend who, without pressing, seems to know everyone's truths simply because he gives space for others to fill the silence. The investor who plays the unsure buyer until the price drops to exactly where he wants it, and then commits fully. None of these are the actions of a fool. They are the work of someone who knows that fear often comes from the unknown, and that being unreadable is a kind of shield. In a rational world, intelligence shown openly would be rewarded. But in reality, what gains ground is control, and control is born from timing. Most lose before they begin because they cannot resist the urge to display their worth, to be seen as clever. They mistake visibility for strength, not realizing that once their mind is fully mapped, others can chart ways to undermine it. The Stoics' restraint is not about hiding forever, but about revealing only what serves the moment. I think of an old general who said nothing when insulted by a rival before the campaign began. He simply listened, unreactive. Weeks later, when the rival's forces were overextended, the general's army appeared from an unexpected pass, ending the war without a single wasted skirmish. Those who watched thought it a miracle, but it was the result of listening, waiting, and knowing exactly when to step forward. This is calculated foolishness, not the ignorance of one who cannot see, but the deliberate choice of one who sees far more than he shows. It's the art of letting others lead the conversation, feeling triumphant, while you quietly set the pieces in place. And when the silence grows heavy, you break it, not with noise, but with precision, a single question that reveals their weakness, a refusal that halts their advance, a shift that changes the entire rhythm of the room. If you can master this, you'll understand what Machiavelli knew and what the Stoics practiced. The greatest victories are not won by force, but by positioning. People do not fear what they can measure and predict. They fear what they cannot read, and when they cannot read you, you hold an advantage they cannot counter until it is too late. So let them speak. Let them feel superior. Let them lower their guard. Let them invite you closer, thinking they are in control. And when the moment arrives, act with the swiftness and accuracy of a strike long prepared. That is not mere intelligence. That is strategic intelligence, and it is the bridge to the next truth you must learn if you want to play the game at its highest level. 3. The power of silence. Have you noticed how our age rewards volume over value? How every debate seems like a contest to see who can speak the longest rather than think the deepest? It has become common to equate constant talking with strength and to see silence as weakness. But the Stoics would smile at such a mistake. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." In a world so desperate to be heard, the man who can stay silent holds a kind of power that noise can never touch. He becomes an unknown quantity, misjudged, dismissed, even mocked, yet beneath the surface, he shapes the entire perception of the room. Here's the quiet secret. People cannot resist filling the gaps in what they don't understand. The less you reveal, the more they project. Their hopes, their fears, their assumptions, and in doing so, they tell you who they truly are. The wise strategist uses this to his advantage. While others believe they are testing him, he is not studying their words so much as their movements, their eyes, the way they shift when they are unsure. They think they are playing chess, but he's already dismantling their board, one unnoticed piece at a time. Imagine walking into a room filled with men competing for dominance. They interrupt, they boast, they sharpen their words to outdo each other. You remain still. You speak only when directly addressed. You do not offer your opinion. And then the unraveling begins. One man, eager to impress, talks too much and reveals where his armor is thin. Another assumes you are shy, lowering his guard and speaking without measure. A third tries to guide you, confident that you are easily swayed. None of them realize you are quietly gathering the very tools that will undo them later. When the moment comes, a single, well-placed move, drawn from their own words, ends the contest entirely. Seneca once said, "To be calm is the highest achievement of the self." This calm is not idleness, it is the patience to watch others expose themselves. And it becomes especially potent in the arena of negotiation. Show your sharpness too soon, and people brace themselves. They prepare counters. They conceal what you most need to know. But approach as though you are unsure, and they lean in to guide you. They speak longer than necessary. They reveal urgency they meant to hide. There is a tale of a merchant who sought to buy a rare cargo. He visited the seller, not as a rival, but as an apparently inexperienced buyer. He asked simple questions, almost clumsy ones, about weight, delivery, and storage. The seller, seeking to impress and reassure him, revealed his debts, his deadlines, and the weakness of his bargaining position. The merchant listened without judgment, left without argument, and returned days later with an offer that the seller, pressured by his own situation, could not refuse. That offer was lower than any the seller had imagined accepting, yet he accepted it, believing it was his only option. This is the art of making others believe they lead while you quietly steer. It requires the discipline to let misunderstandings about you stand, even when pride urges you to correct them. Delay your opinions. Let others carry the weight of the conversation. When insulted, do not respond. When praised, do not bask. Each reaction you withhold strengthens your position, while each word they offer adds to the map you are drawing in your mind. Even the questions you ask can be weapons if you forge them carefully. Ask something so obvious it seems unworthy of the answer, and people will often over-explain. In the extra detail lies the information you were never supposed to have. Let the pause after their answer linger, and they will rush to fill it. Let them believe you hesitate because you do not know, when in truth you are letting them walk further into their own disclosure. The Stoics taught that mastery of oneself is the foundation for mastery over circumstance. By holding your tongue, by controlling your face and your pace, you are not withdrawing from the contest, you are shifting it entirely onto ground that you control. Most people cannot bear being misunderstood. They rush to clarify, to prove themselves. But the man who can endure being underestimated holds the advantage. A dangerous man is met with walls. A harmless one is welcomed inside. And once inside, he has access to truths and vulnerabilities that no outsider could reach. If you understand this, you see why the loudest man in the room often holds the weakest position. Everyone is watching him, defending against him. The one they ignore, the one they think beneath notice, is the one who moves without resistance. And when he finally acts, it feels to others like an unexpected storm. So, in a world where noise is mistaken for influence, choose to be the quiet storm forming beyond the horizon. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let them underestimate. And when you do speak, let it be with the precision of someone who has already won. If this speaks to you, leave a single word in the comments. Quiet. Then, be ready. Because the next step will take this stillness and turn it into something even more decisive. 4. Dominance in disguise. Have you ever stood in a circle where every voice was trying to be the loudest, every gesture a subtle bid for dominance? It is a wearying sight, the constant display of strength, the endless need to be acknowledged as superior. And yet, if you watch closely, you'll notice that the true leader is rarely the one who spends the most energy trying to prove it. The Stoics would say that the man who governs himself governs the room, for authority that needs to be announced is already in danger of being lost. In such groups, there is power in stepping outside the contest entirely, by appearing slow to react, unbothered by the posturing, even slightly awkward. You remove yourself from the jostling ranks just long enough to see the hierarchy clearly. You begin to notice who craves attention most, who relies on flattery, who undermines quietly, and who seeks to pull others into their shadow. And with this knowledge, you can press on the exact points that turn the structure upside down, not by playing harder, but by ending the game with a shift so subtle they never realize it began. The same principle breathes in matters of romance and attraction, where many make the fatal mistake of revealing too much, too soon. They rush to impress, speaking as if in an interview, laying out every virtue in the hope it will earn admiration. But the man who remains elusive, who does not rush to compete for affection, often draws more longing than the one who constantly tries to win it. This is not carelessness. It is the art of being unreadable. People are drawn to what they cannot fully grasp. They fall for the mystery they cannot solve, not for the hand that spills all its cards in the opening minutes. Seneca once observed, "It is better to conquer our passions than to be conquered by them." In this realm, the passion to be understood and admired must be mastered. Pretending not to notice every glance, not to answer every question with eagerness, is not the same as passivity. It is the mask of a man who is watching everything, who hears every word spoken around him, and files each one away for when it will serve him best. To the untrained eye, he may look disengaged, even timid. But in truth, every assumption made about him becomes a tool, every underestimation a seed of his future advantage. I once heard of a court advisor who was thought to be little more than a ceremonial presence, nodding politely while others debated. In reality, he noted who deferred to whom, who bristled at certain names, and who smiled too broadly when praised. Months later, when a dispute threatened to fracture the court, he stepped forward with a proposal so precise that it resolved the matter in a single audience. The lords thought it sudden genius. In truth, it was the slow harvest of countless moments they had dismissed. There is a cruel irony in intelligence. The moment you display it openly, it becomes something others feel compelled to test, challenge, and diminish. Once named, it is no longer your quiet advantage, but a target for rivalries and insecurities. But when intelligence is concealed, it becomes a shadow, sensed but never caught. Rivals cannot defend against what they cannot identify, and fear grows in that uncertainty. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best way of avenging yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer." In this way, the wise man resists the temptation to fight on obvious terms, preferring to choose the field, the timing, and the terms of engagement. To wear the mask is not to surrender who you are, it is to protect it until revealing it serves your purpose. The longer the mask is held, the deeper your strike can reach when the time comes to use it. And when that moment arrives, the blow does not need to be loud or dramatic. It is enough that it is precise, a quiet act that alters the balance entirely. In the end, dominance does not belong to the one most visibly in command, but to the one whose influence is woven so subtly into the fabric of events that by the time it is recognized, it has already decided the outcome. And it is in understanding this truth that we begin to see the next layer of the game. 5. Follow to lead. Picture two men entering the same room. The first carries himself like a banner, polished, sharp-eyed, visibly capable. Every step seems to say he knows his worth, and the room notices instantly. Some nod with approval, but most quietly prepare against him. They measure their words, conceal their intentions, and begin building small walls he'll have to climb before he can influence anything. The second man walks in differently. His manner is plain, calm, almost forgettable. He does not rush to correct errors, does not boast, does not signal dominance. People barely register him as a factor. They relax, speak freely, let their guard down. They reveal hopes, grievances, vulnerabilities, and while they believe themselves in control, he listens with a patience that is not born of passivity, but of discipline. Machiavelli might call this entering through the servant's door and leaving as king, for you cannot direct a room you have not first slipped into unnoticed. This is not merely silence, it is the deliberate shaping of presence. The Stoics understood that opinion, when delivered without restraint, becomes a chain around the speaker's own ankle. Marcus Aurelius counseled to be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. By asking questions rather than asserting truths, you invite others to reveal themselves. They believe they are guiding you, but in truth, they are mapping out their own positions for you to navigate at will. I once heard of a scholar in a royal court who often feigned confusion at debates over law. Eager to impress, the ministers would explain in ever greater detail, exposing contradictions in their own arguments. Later, with one quiet observation, the scholar would shift the ruler's perspective completely, using only the words the ministers themselves had spoken. That is power without confrontation, the ability to let others dig the well and then draw from it when you choose. There is also strength in what might be called selective confusion. To not understand at the right moment draws out explanations, tests the depth of another's knowledge, and exposes the places they are less certain. In the guise of the student, you gather their rhythm, their confidence, their blind spots. They mistake your listening for deference, not realizing each word is being stored for precise use later. A master strategist often appears to follow. He allows others to set the path, to think they're steering, while a suggestion here, a pause there, gradually shifts the destination. It is leadership without the burden of the crown, until the moment the crown is already yours. Epictetus taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. This is not weakness. It is a shield that lets you move unopposed. Even insult becomes a resource. The man who does not react turns every barb into a revelation of the insulter's own insecurities and values. Their laughter, their mockery, their attempts to diminish you, all of it is confession. And while they think they have struck a blow, you are sharpening the blade of your response, unseen. In hierarchies, those who seem ambitious, loud, or dangerously clever are marked at once. They are watched, countered, and often isolated. But the man thought harmless walks in unchallenged. He gathers trust by default, becomes the quiet confidant, and over time holds more of the room's truths than anyone else. By the time his influence is visible, it is too late to resist. The order has already shifted in his favor. This principle reaches into personal connections as well. The man who appears too polished, too perfect, can feel unapproachable. People keep a safe distance, unsure where they fit beside him. But when your edges are softer, your presence relaxed, even aloof, people lean closer. They reveal what they hide from the polished and the proud. They believe they are managing you, perhaps even rescuing you, and in that belief, they step into the frame you've built for them without realizing it. Still, there is a limit. Machiavelli warned that men must be either flattered or destroyed. There is danger in wearing the mask for too long. Pretend to be the fool without remembering the truth, and you risk becoming what you pretend. The mask is a tool, not an identity. In private, you must keep the edge sharp, refining thought, deepening observation, training the strike, so that when the moment comes to drop the illusion, you step forward as a weapon no one saw coming. The most powerful man in the room is seldom the loudest, the brightest, or the quickest to correct. He is the one who appears to be following while quietly shaping the end. There is a genius that does not need the stage, that avoids applause, that never chases recognition because it understands what most never do. The more they can predict you, the easier you are to defeat. And the more they overlook you, the closer you stand to winning without a fight. And it is in grasping this paradox, hiding strength to use it, that we move to the next and perhaps most dangerous art of all. 6. The power of harmlessness. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to move through the world without drawing resistance, to build something vast right in front of those who would destroy it, and yet have them smile as you pass? The Stoics would say that power is not always taken by force, but often gathered in silence, in patience, in the art of appearing harmless while your hands work unseen. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." The wise man does not race his rival to the summit. He builds a path so quiet that by the time his presence is felt, he is already there. This is not the simple matter of being underestimated. It is the deliberate crafting of an image that makes others certain you pose no threat. You do not seek the spotlight. You stand in the shadows where eyes pass over you. You do not fight for credit. You let others expose themselves with their hunger for it. This is not humility. It is a calculated withdrawal, a strategic invisibility. Its reward is not in quick victories, but in the slow, almost invisible shift of advantage, until those who once dismissed you can no longer understand how they lost. History is rich with those who mastered this discipline. Julius Caesar played the role of the people's champion, his rivals mocking his performances in the public square, until he crossed the Rubicon and held Rome in his grasp. Lenin was brushed aside as an irrelevance by the Tsar's court. He waited, studied, and when the time came, struck so precisely that the monarchy fell in a single movement. Liu Bang, who would found the Han dynasty, was known first as a village drunk and jester. Those who scorned him never saw the emperor in waiting. What they shared was not mere patience, but the choice to live beneath notice until they could claim the whole board. The true danger of this mask is how it makes you immune to the snares that entangle others. While the ambitious lock horns to prove themselves, you are not competing, you are observing. And nothing reveals a person's nature more clearly than how they treat someone they believe to be beneath them. In that space, you see who manipulates, who flatters when they want something, who grows cruel when unchallenged, who hides fear behind a loud voice. Every insult becomes a map of their weaknesses. Every patronizing smile a signal of where their armor is thin. To wield this art, you must master the restraint to hold back your opinions. Let others speak first. Let them believe they lead. Do not rush to correct falsehoods. They often serve you better in place. Train your face to be unreadable. When insulted, do not blink. When praised, do not glow. When challenged, do not flinch. The silence will feel heavy to them, and in that wait, they will reveal more than they intended. Ask questions that seem almost too obvious, not to parade your intelligence, but to invite their overconfidence. The simple question is often the key that unlocks the guarded room. In their eagerness to instruct you, they explain more than they should. Some will talk themselves into corners, others will betray urgency they hope to hide. The more they think you are slow to understand, the more they will try to guide you, not realizing you are walking them exactly where you want them. In truth, you are not lost. You are luring them forward. Most people dread being misunderstood. The Stoic strategist embraces it, for the greater the distance between what they think you are and who you truly are, the more space you have to maneuver. The man openly seen as dangerous will always meet resistance. The man believed to be harmless will walk unopposed into the inner chambers. I once heard of a trader who spent years in the markets never taking the most visible deal, never pressing for the top position. Competitors grew accustomed to ignoring him. They shared news, leaks, and strategies in his presence without concern. When a rare opportunity appeared, a cargo worth more than all his previous trades combined, he was the only one with every piece of the puzzle. He moved in a single day, quietly claiming what others had not even realized was vulnerable. By the time they understood, the moment was gone and the balance of power had shifted forever. This is why the mask works. It is not weakness, it is dominance in camouflage. To hold it requires the discipline to remember that the mask is a tool, not your identity. Wear it too long without sharpening your true edge, and you risk becoming the role you play. In private, you must refine your thoughts, deepen your understanding, prepare your actions, so that when the moment comes, you can shed the illusion without hesitation. The Stoics knew that mastery of self is the highest form of mastery. Epictetus taught, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Pretending to be less than you are is only useful if you never forget the fullness of your strength. Your restraint is not emptiness, it is the storing of potential. Your quiet is not absence, it is the gathering of force. The most enduring victories are the ones your opponent does not see until they are already lost. The world will always chase the man who looks impressive, who stands tall and speaks loudly. Let them. The crown is rarely taken in open contest. More often, it is lifted from the table in a room where no one thought to guard it. When you can move unseen, when you can let others reveal themselves while you remain unreadable, when you can endure being misunderstood without the itch to correct it, you will have crossed into a higher game. And in that game, the greatest power is not in being known, but in being underestimated until the day you decide to be known no more. True wisdom does not seek to be constantly seen, praised, or even feared. Its greatest strength is in moving quietly, shaping outcomes long before anyone realizes where the shift began. If you are truly intelligent, ask yourself this. Are you spending your energy proving your worth to those who hold no real power over your life? Or are you saving it for the moment when it will alter the course entirely? The masters of strategy have always known that fools invite laughter, the openly brilliant invite attack. But the one who reveals neither holds the crown without contest. So be still when others rush. Let them speak. Let them laugh. Let them believe you are not a factor. Every word they waste in comfort is another thread you can weave into your advantage. And when your time comes, act with the precision of someone who has been ready all along. If this resonates, type "quiet" in the comments. And if you value lessons that sharpen both mind and spirit, subscribe so you never miss the next move. Remember, your silence can be the seed of your greatest victory, and your patience the force that turns the entire game in your favor. The next chapter will show you exactly how to wield that force.